All right, good afternoon, everyone. Again, so today we're going to start a new chapter, which is the telephone systems. I call them telephone systems conventional, which is going to be complemented later on at further lecture by the VoIP telephone systems. So we have done, excuse me, we have covered the basics of the POTS, which stands for plain old telephone service. Then from that, we are moving on to the telephone systems. I think we're progressing quite well with this thing here. I'm happy with the flow of this course right now. All right. So what do we see on the screen? If you live in Canada, if you lived in Canada for some time, I'm pretty sure you have seen these phone sets. These are the Nortel or North Star, excuse me, Meridian systems. Right? They were so good that for some reason, after Northern Telecom went out of business, you can still buy somehow some of the newly made systems. Somebody doing this thing offshore, I don't know, or is a residue from the production previous the Northern Telecom going down. I don't know, but regardless of whether they're being produced or not, they're still in demand by, usually it would be a small business because those phones are so good. So we're going to look at some of that, and we're going to take a look at the difference between just a plain old telephone service, which is POTS connection, which is just a landline coming in, connecting to a single line phone, and single line phone, also known as SL phone or SL phone set, or sometimes you're going to hear SL set or single line set. It's just a regular telephone that plugs into POTS. Now, these here, they will not work if you plug them in to the POTS line that's just installed from outside, from the city, from the central office, CO line. It will not work if you plug it into a CO line, and CO line is POTS. Okay? They are so-called proprietary telephone sets, and what that means is that there is a box, a physical piece of equipment that is mounted in the facility that the phone system is provided to. It would be just a small one like this here, and this particular one by Nortel or the Meridian is called 3x8, which means it's capable of bringing 3 lines from outside and branching it out to 8 extensions. So they call it 3x8. Well, this one here, 616, right? Now, this one is a modular system, which means you can add modules to increase the capability of the phone system. And it's called conventional, I call it conventional phone system, telephone system. Now, the acronyms associated with that would be KSU or PBX. All right, let's start with the PBX. PBX stands for Private Branch Exchange. Right. Now, those buildings that you can see, well, in our area, it would be the buildings, just freestanding buildings, once upon a time, everywhere, with the logo of Bell or Bell Canada. These are branch exchanges. Just like those central offices when the ladies were sitting and patching the conversations, that would be a branch exchange, except it was operated manually. Right? The technology wasn't there yet. Right now, when the technology moved forward, the branch exchanges became automatic, so there is no humans. There are no humans in those buildings, except for when that place needs to be serviced or the system needs to be serviced in whichever way. Right? So these are called branch exchanges. Now, when you get a little miniature telephone system or mini telephone, because the telephone system that services the city or the country, that will be a macro kind of a scale, right? So the mini still doesn't have to be that small. So let's say you have a hospital or a university or any kind of a huge facility. You are going to get some sort of equipment to service the telephones that are distributed in that business or that facility. Like, for example, in a hospital or a school, hospitals are big. So in a hospital, there could be 1,200 telephone sets. Right? Now, that branch exchange, you're going to install, you're going to designate a room for all the phone system to be organized, which means you're going to, instead of having a box on the wall, you're going to have whole rack systems, whole equipment mounted to the floor. And it's also going to be called a branch exchange. But to distinguish that from the branch exchanges that are in the city, then we call them private branch exchanges. So it's a mini phone system servicing hospital. It's just 1,200 phones, maybe, or 1,500 phones, right? Except, as comparing, as opposed to, a city one that would service how many hundreds of thousands of telephone systems, right? So 1,200 or 1,500 might be a lot, but it's just a matter of comparing the scale. So that's why we call them private branches, or PBX. So the phone system that would service all the phones in like a huge hospital, it would be called PBX, right? Now, when it comes to downsizing to real small venues, like for example, a business that requires only 12 telephones, you would install something like this. You could also call it technically PBX, but just to distinguish this thing and the sizes of the systems, we just call that KSU, which stands for Key Service Unit. Right? So here are KSUs, and this could almost serve as PBX. It also can be called KSU, but sometimes people use that terminology exchangeably, and that's fine. Right? I just want you to know the etymology of the terminology. Right? All right. So we have here, so there are phone sets, we have the phone systems, and again, these phones work with just this box, with this KSU or this PBX. Now here are the BICS frames that are quite popular still popular for terminating or cross-connecting phone lines, and this lab that we're doing right now, just FYI, this video is recorded on February 13th, 2024, and it is Tuesday. So this month, Friday the 13th is on Tuesday. Okay, there we go. So these are proprietary phones. Now, this is a Meridian phone system. There could be a Panasonic phone system, which will have Panasonic proprietary telephone sets, which will work only with that box. And there are also Toshiba and some other brands that even I don't remember, because there are many, right? So there's a difference between the proprietary telephone set or single line set, SL. Can we connect an SL set or single line set into this box? Yes, we can, but we have to have something in between those phones, and it's called sometimes called the ATA adapter. ATA stands for analog telephone adapter. We'll talk more about this as we go along with this presentation here. All right, the terminology here, we're going to skip this slide for now. We're going to come back to it. All right. Now this here is something that's called a BICS cross connect field. So BICS cross connect field. What do we have? Well, we have the ground bus. So things have to be grounded with telecommunications as well. All right. But it's just just the rules of the installations, right? All the systems, all the equipment, racks, everything, there has to be ground to it. Right? Now, what do we see here? We see a bunch of 25 pair telephone cables, and we see a bunch of telephone cables going to the other BICS field, as well as some maybe other individual field cabling, maybe, or maybe just a shadow casting. Yeah, but it is possible. Oh yeah, here's some of the blue ones here, right? They're connected to some of these BICS frames. This tells me that this is a secondary demarcation point. Demarcation point is a point of entry. So the demarc point for the whole building would be some sort of a room with the electrical equipment and communications equipment, sometimes in one room, and sometimes if the rooms are bigger, then the rooms are separate and much bigger. All right. But this tells me that this is a secondary demarcation point, because sometimes you get a main demarc where everything comes in from outside, and then some of the lines are being distributed to some other area that services some larger area of the building, and some other could be going east or west of the building, and so on. This looks like a secondary demarc point. Why do I think that? Is because I can see these here, these cables, these are just regular inside cables. So they must be connected somewhere inside the building to something like that. All right. So we have terminated the 25 pair cables. Each 25 pair cable takes one connector. So here's 25 pairs, here's 25 pairs, here's 25 pairs, and so on, right? So all these are terminated there. Now, the other ones are coming from somewhere else in the field, and field is the rest of the building. And, well, those are being terminated at the front. Then the frame is being flipped. So there could be a free connector on the empty connector with the pair connected at the back of the sometimes we call them wafers. And then you can use something that's called a cross connect cable, punch that in here, run it through this cross connect field, and terminate that thing anywhere that it has to be terminated according to whatever plan that you have. All right, so that's a cross connect field. Now, this is what we're going to do. This is going to be our lab, and some of us already have done it. All right, so this is a 25 pair cable terminated on the BICS frame. All right, notice that over here, this is 1A4, which usually should be designated for terminating individual cables. However, if you have that instead of 1A, which gives you the orientation marks every fifth pair, just for our orientation. If you exchange those, that's fine, as long as you know where things are. Technically, properly, you should use 1A, right? Not 1A4. 1A has orientation marks every fifth pair, but these are just orientation marks. There's nothing different inside between the 1A4 and 1A. Right? So watch the video. Please watch the video. I don't know, a lot of people are not watching the videos. Well, can't make the horse drink the water, I guess, right? Depends on what you want to do. If you are planning to work in this field, please watch those videos that I'm showing, because I'm giving you some useful information based on my 30 or over 30 years experience in the field. I know what you need. Right? Some of that stuff might be, well, I won't say outdated, but some of the stuff could be phasing out. But just think about it. There's still a lot of existing systems to be serviced. There's still a lot of existing systems that needs to be retrofitted into something new. In order to retrofit things to something new, you have to know how the old one works. That's what makes you employable. And there's so much stuff that needs to be retrofitted and converted that you can make pretty good coin doing just that. Right? All right, motivational speech over. All right, so here is the lab that we're going to do. That's the 25 pair terminated on a 25 pair connector. It's called BICS connector. Now, here is the BICS frame, and here is the Amphenol RJ21 jack. So the X stands for male or female. So here's the male version, here's a female version of that, and this is how the pairs are being distributed on these connectors, like that. See that here? Here's blue, white. So look, like there's 5 groups. Here's a white group. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 whites. All right. Blue, orange, green, brown, slate. All right. And here's red, black, yellow. See, Canadian colors, white, red. White is the first one. Canadian colors, red, white, red, black and yellow, kill a fellow, and violence is the last thing that we need. And so violet, so that sounds like violence, is the last color. Oops, where are we here? All right, okay. So here's the male version and the female version of the RJ21 jack. How is that looking? How does that look like? This is what it looks like, right? And if you look at the slide right here, that's where this thing plugs in, right here. See, there is the modular telephone system with different modules being added and making so they work as one big system. Here's an end-funnel connector with a 25 pair cable sticking out of it. Here's one. Here. It's just a nice and convenient, compact way of connecting things to equipment. Where we don't need to split the wires. But later on, if you need to cross connect things, of course, we're fanning this thing out onto the big frames. All right. So this is something that's called butterfly tool. This one is used to terminate a raw 25 pair cable onto this. Right. Here's a bit of a video of somebody terminating those the 25 pair cables onto the M-funnel connectors or the RJ21 connectors. You arrange those wires in those slots here, nice and neat. Then you are putting in the connector, just standing up just like that, and you close the jaws using those handles. Just close them inwards, and those cables are being pushed into the connectors. And there's also a knife that cuts off the excess wire. So that's just look at that. It's a short video. Sometimes it is a good idea to have that to be able to do this. Well, always it's a good idea to be able to. And here's see there's a color code here marked on which color goes where. It works nice if you want to extend cables, or if you want to make some interfaces between equipment. It's not just a telephone. School PA systems are big on that too. They use 25 pair cables, and some of the analog ones, I would say, right? Analog connection. There's a lot of school PA systems right now that they use RJ45 or the Ethernet type of a protocol. But there's a lot of different PA systems. There are different phone systems. So it's a good idea to have that in your stash. It used to be an expensive piece of equipment, but now you can probably, if you're lucky, you can purchase it for like $25 or $40 on eBay or something like that. Very useful piece of equipment. All right. Now here's another version of how this thing is being used. Here's an M-funnel connector plugged into the phone system. Here's a 25 pair cable with the pairs fanned out onto a connector. There you go. You can connect things to wherever they should go. And here, this is what the 3x8 looks like. Here's 3 incoming phone lines from outside, and here is the 16 extensions. Each pair has a phone connected to it. So sorry, not 16, 8. So first 8 pairs are going to be extensions, extension 1, extension 2, and so on. We're going to look at the connection further down this presentation. Tip and ring, we have already gone through this in the previous presentation, so I'm not going to spend any time on this one here. Tip and ring, we already know what those mean, and those if there are any guitar players or musicians in the room or in the house, then you know what these look like for sure. These are 1/4-inch jacks because the diameter of this cylinder here, cylindrical plug, is 1/4 inch. Right? They are also, as a reminder, the headphone jacks. They are 1/8, 1/8, 1/8 of an inch, because the diameter is 1/8 of an inch. So these are small headphone jacks. All right, peripherals and peripherals devices. We're going to spend some time on this slide. Let's take a look at here. First of all, this is just a reminder of what POTS signal looks like. Right now, POTS signal, POTS line delivery, plain old telephone system delivery. Is sort of being phased out, is becoming less and less popular, unless sometimes, and we're going to talk about that as well, you need to have an uninterrupted telephone line. and sometimes they are connected to something that's called, those lines are connected to something that's called 911 phone, right? What's a 911 phone? It's a phone that you can pick up and dial 911, all right? Sometimes those phones are required to be distributed along big production plants or big facilities, just so somebody can dial 911. Now, why can't we just say, okay, well, everybody has a cell phone, so anybody can dial 911 from their cell phone that they have in the pocket? Yes, that's true, but as the owner of a big corporation, you can't unofficially rely on someone having a cell phone, working cell phone, right? So 911 phones are being installed, and those are being connected straight to POTS lines. So you could have a phone system that has 200 telephone lines that there could be part of the phone system, or could be those SIP lines. We'll talk about what SIP lines are, session initiation protocol lines. These are the digital VoIP telephone, but we're not talking about VoIP today. But they could be the company could have many lines installed going through some sort of a system. But if the power goes down, the system goes down, network goes down, well, POTS line is independent of the power in the building, because the power provided is from the central office, from the phone exchange, right? From the branch exchange. So if the power goes down, the phone line is still going to work, because it's just has no relation to whatever the inside wiring that is there, inside service wiring. Now, here is the tape and ring. Now, also the POTS, even though this system is being phased out as a phone delivery from outside, but a lot of peripherals that have to do with the phone system work. They utilize this sort of protocol, right? So here is the tip and ring, and the tip and ring, because of the quarter-inch jack, and tip is more positive than the ring. See that? Tip is more positive than the ring, but the tip sits at the ground level. So the ring is negative, is even more negative than the ground. Just take a look at that. Make sure you grasp the idea. I'll be asking you on the test what that is. What is the reason for that? The reason for that is in the old days when they were installing telegraph lines that were extended along the railroads and roads or whatnot between cities, the polarity was reversed, right? So the tip was, well, tip and ring, it was, the ground was ground and the positive was positive, and the lines were suspended overhead were kind of positive. So that would cause corrosion of the wires. Now, when the polarity of the wires was reversed, then the corrosion problem was solved. So that's the reason why tip, even though it's more positive than the ring in the phone line, but tip is connected physically to the ground. Right? All right, so that's tip and ring. As far as now, the voltage is negative 48 volts DC. Right? Plus and minus. When there is when there's a ring, there's a 90 volts peak to peak imposed on the tip. Right? All right, so there's a video there. I wonder if I include it in the YouTube list. If not, I will. But there's also, in the previous presentation notes, there is a link to that video explaining the voltages on the telephone line. Right? Now, there's some peripherals. We got two. One is a loud ringer, or sometimes it's called a night ringer, to ring at night. And the other one is paging interface. All right. Let's take care of some concepts here. Let's see, there is a large production plant with some sort of a supervisor's kind of a shack or an office right in the middle of the floor. There's 4 walls, ceiling, and the door, so the supervisor can get in, and they have their own, they can do whatever the supervisors do. Now, sometimes the supervisor needs to leave the office in order to take care of some challenge or issue or whatever. That's also what the supervisors do. What if somebody wants to call the supervisor in their office? All right, well, they wouldn't hear the phone. So you can install this type of a device just on the outside and some of them will flash a strobe light, and some of them will make a loud buzzing noise to be heard over the loud environment, and some of them have both strobe light and the loud noise, just to alert that the phone rings in the office, right? And the connection that this thing is connected to can be programmed to respond, to follow the phone ring or specific extension. So if you associate that with a phone extension that is assigned to the supervisor's office, then they will work together. Right? Now, they can be programmed to activate only at night, so it could be time triggered automatically, or they could be programmed to work every time the phone rings, right? So that's a night ringer. Now, these here, some of them have just a dry contact relay. So if the relay is closed or the dry contact is closed, then this thing activates, and of course it's being plugged into something, right? All right, so then some of them have POTS connection. If they have a POTS connection, they need to be connected to the phone system that doesn't understand POTS. It just understands whatever the system, the company that developed the phone system, it just understands that type of signal. So it will not work. But that's why we need to have something in between. The ATA adapter. What's an ATA adapter? An ATA adapter is a device that on one side, it has a connection to whatever the system is. So the ATA adapters are made specifically to the system that they're supposed to work with. And on the other side, the other output, input-output, another outlet, it will be POTS. So all ATA adapters will have POTS jack. The other jack plugs into whatever system. So this one here is done by Cisco, but if it was a Meridian phone system, it would be a different ATA adapter that works with the Meridian. If it were a Panasonic system, okay, you get the idea, right? So the POTS can be connecting to different peripheral devices. Now, the loud ringers usually like to have a relay, right? Which means if you need to connect that through the ATA adapter we probably need another piece of equipment that plugs into the POTS jack into the ATA adapter. And when the ATA adapter acts like a phone. If the ATA adapter is plugged into the phone system thinks that it has a phone plugged into it. And so the whole circuitry acts like a phone, except it has no handset and a dial pad, right, or keypad. You can connect a single line set into it, and it's just going to act as a phone. So yes, you can connect single line set into the whatever phone system you have through the ATA adapter that works. It's made for that system. And then because if it acts like a phone, it will have extension number. You dial the extension number of the ATA adapter, it's going to make the jack ring. And if there's a phone plugged into it, single line, the phone is going to ring. You can pick it up and talk. Or you can pick up the phone and dial whatever the number, just like you use your phone, and then it will translate the information. So yes, there's a possibility of connecting single line set. Excuse me. Now, what else the ATA adapters connect to? There's one thing that we haven't talked about. It's going to be the last slide of this presentation, if we can make it today. It's a door station. A door station is just a square like a box with the speaker on it and the button to push. That's it. And it's programmed as a hot dial. So you push the button and that box dials the number. So that box, the door station, is connected to the phone system, whatever it is, through the ATA adapter, because they are being produced to accommodate the POTS protocol, signal protocol. So if it's a door station, it could be a lobby of a closed office building, and in the lobby you could have a door station with a button to push, and that thing can be programmed. So you push the button, it dials the reception. The receptionist picks up the phone, has a conversation, lets you in, or whatever needs to be done, right? Also, the door stations are very popular devices to be used at track entrances. When a truck pulls in, there could be some big companies, big, huge facilities, production plants, and whatnot. So there's a truck traffic going through the gates. So now when a truck driver pulls to the gates, there would be a door station that is mounted on a height that the truck driver doesn't even have to get out. They just can reach out the window, push the button, and that station can be programmed to dial whatever extension whoever needs to talk to the truck drivers when they arrive. Right? So we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go along. Now, also, here's something that's called a paging interface, and this is a particular one, one of the most popular ones, if not the most popular ones, by Bogen, Bogen, right? Bogen. Well, it's a company that produces. Oh, here it is. Okay, yeah, Bogen. Right? And here is some reference to if you want to find out some more. Like, look, this paging interface has a module that connects to pots. So one of these outlets, these jacks, will be connected to the ATA adapter. That ATA adapter acts as a phone connected to the phone system. If you dial the extension of the ATA, that ATA is going to produce a ringing signal on its output, POTS output. That thing connected to the paging interface. Paging interface is programmed to sense the ringing signal, the POTS ringing signal, and it's programmed to automatically pick up. And then the action could be different depending on what the need is. Usually, it does produce a confirmation tone. So you dial the extension. If you want to do a page, like an all-call page or page certain zone in the building, right? You dial the extension of the ATA adapter that is connected to the phone system, and you will have the information of what the extension is. Or you could be having a button programmed on the phone that is programmed to dial that extension, and the button could be labeled as PA or page. Right? So the confirmation tone can mean more than one thing. If it's a simple PA system that has only one zone, that has only one amplifier, and it is connected to a huge network of that constant voltage distributed system that we studied already in one of the first classes, and there's only one zone. So this paging interface can be programmed to just give you a confirmation tone, which means after the beep, just talk. And of course, the employees that work for the facility that are supposed to use that, but they know, they are trained to do that, right? So in this building, you hear the confirmation tone, start talking, and the page goes out. Everybody hears what you're saying. Also, this paging interface can be programmed that after the confirmation tone, you have to do one more action. You have to select the zone that you want to page. Some of the big facilities are zoned into different zones, right? There could be a huge area that is designated for shipping and receiving. There could be a production hall or production space for such and such. There could be another production space for such and such and whatnot. There could be offices and other things. And sometimes it makes sense that things are being broken into zones as far as PA system is concerned. Because if, like, for example, there could be a big activity when it comes to paging and doing all calls, just in the area of shipping and receiving. There could be high traffic going on. So the whole facility does not need to hear all the pages that apply just to the shipping and receiving. So when you want to pick up the phone and you want a page, press this button so you can do a page that just applies to the shipping and receiving and so on. Right? So the PA system can be programmed that if you press 1, you get the offices. You press 2, you get shipping and receiving. Press 3, you got production hall, whatever. Press 4, you get some kind of design offices area or something like that. Right? It can be programmed to accommodate those. Now the system can, the Bogan's paging interface is nicely solved. It could use one amplifier instead of multiple amplifiers to power up zones. It has one amplifier connected to it, and then when you press the zone, that the branches that are servicing certain zones are just included in the page or not. And you can use just one amplifier to do that. Very, very neat piece of equipment, nicely solved. Right? How does it work? Well, if you are required to install one of those or service one of those, you're either going to get a manual thrown at you that you're going to have to read, that I always emphasize, please read. You think you have to read one page that I give you and follow the instructions exactly, and you think that this is a chore? Find out later on when you work and you get the whole binder thrown at you and you have to wait just a weekend to go over the details of that, right? So I'm just trying to get you into following the instructions, and I keep saying that over and over and over because I know how important that is. Right? All right, so that's the, and of course, so here's a paging interface that is connected through ATA adapter, and the ATA adapter is connected to the phone system. This particular one here is an ATA adapter for the VoIP. It's a Cisco one. Now, some of us already have dealt with the ATA adapters not even knowing about it. No? ATA stands for analog telephone adapter. If you have a phone, like a landline, but it's not connected to pods, it's connected through the so phone through the internet. Right? So the company that provides the internet for you, they give you a modem, and they also give you something that's called a phone box. They call it the telephone box. Well, the telephone box is an ATA adapter. In fact, if you just keep reading what's on the box, over here, this one says, I know it's hard to see because it's kind of blurred out, but this one actually says ATA phone adapter. Right? I'm looking at one right now. That's a very similar one to this. All right, so that's as far as peripheral devices. There could be different ones, but these are the most basic ones. Paging interface, loud ringers, that's pretty much as far as things. Now, the door stations, someone might say, we could use that in the elevators. No, we can't. Because ATA adapter requires a connection to a phone system that requires power. Right? If someone gets stuck in the elevator and the power goes down in the building, then they are out of luck. Right? So a direct POTS line has to be provided to the elevator. So even if the power goes down in the whole building, and if there's a physical connection, which there is, then a phone call can be made from the elevator. Right? Same as 911 phones. So elevator phone is basically just like a 911 phone, right? USOC color code. We already talked about that. USOC stands for Universal Service Ordering Code. 2 middle prongs are for the single line set. So here's pair 1, tip 1, ring 1. And then they just go tip 1, ring 1, and tip 1 and ring, tip 2 and ring 2. And then you go ring 2, 3 and tip 3. Just see here. This would be RJ11. This would be RJ12. The difference between RJ11 and RJ12, the RJ11 accommodates 2 pairs, the jack. RJ12 accommodates 4 pairs. And RJ11 is physically exactly the same, except those 2 slots are empty. There's no prongs in them. All right. Here's an example of outlets or jacks. Here's a surface mount jack. Here's a wall mount jack. Here's a modular plug or modular jack. Now, you see, here's pair 1 and pair 2. Usually, when you're connecting a single line phone to any of these, you just use the pair 1 because a jack per phone. Unless you want to do some sort of gymnastics combination of whatnot, that you're going to use some sort of this as a junction box or whatever. Yeah, but rarely, right? Usually you would connect the pair 1 because pair 1 is connected to the middle prongs. See that here? Red and green, connected to the 2 middle prongs of the jack. And when you plug in the phone, that's when the phone, the single line set, that's where it looks for the signal, the 2 middle prongs, pair 1. Same here. Here's a wall-mounted jack. Here's a red and green. That means that's a tip and ring, and it's connected to the middle pair of the jack. All right. Now here is something that people need to understand. This is an Ethernet jack, RJ45. RJ45 jack. What do they say here? The modular RJ45 jack can be used, yes, it can be used as a telephone jack if wired in USOC configuration. How would you install that as just one telephone line jack? You just use the blue pair of the jack. Now, the blue pair that is labeled on the jack, not on the wire, the jack, is connected to the 2 middle prongs. And since the phone jack, the RJ11 or RJ12, physically can go in there and work properly, then you would connect just the two middle prongs, which connects to the blue pair of the jack. It just so happens that this one here is wired as Ethernet, which is fine. Because if you have a dry Ethernet connection, and if you plug in a phone on one side, phone signal on one side, the blue pair and the blue pair of the jacks, they are connected to each other, and the only pair was going to be utilized would be that. And you plug in a phone set on this side, it will be carried through that one pair. The signal will be carried, so yeah, it's going to work. But if you want to connect this thing just as a phone, you only connect the blue pair of the jack. So look at this here, and the other ones you can just not connect. You don't need to connect that. Right? Now, some things that we need to understand. I think I already explained this thing before, but I'm going to explain this thing again. If you have this Ethernet cable, and let's pretend that all these are disconnected. Right. On one side, we have 4 telephone lines. So if you have this cable can carry 4 USOC configured or 4 POTS lines, because one POTS pair is a pair, tip and ring, and this cable has 4 pairs: pair blue, pair orange, pair green, and the brown pair. Right? So if you want to connect 4 telephone jacks, physical telephone jacks, to this cable on this side, you would connect on the other side, you would connect blue pair to line number 1, POTS, orange to, well, line number 2, and the green to line number 3. And if you don't have the 4th line, the brown pair is just going to be not used. Then if you have just a single jack like that to connect, so you have 3 pairs being used, blue pair carries line 1. You would connect the blue pair of the cable to the blue pair of the jack to carry the phone signal. Then the next telephone line will be connected to the orange pair, and if you have another one like that beside it, you would still connect the orange pair to the blue pair of the jack, because that's where the POTS line is traveling through. And the phone that's connected to it is going to look for the signal in the two middle prongs. So the two middle prongs are connected to the blue pair on the jack. So that phone line, no matter what color the pair is, has to be connected to the blue pair of the jack, right? Right. Okay. I hope we get it. If you don't, please talk to me. Just stop me at the end of class or during the lab and ask me to explain that. Right? Here is, we've got 3 minutes to go. All right. So here is RJ11, RJ12. Look, see, they physically are the same, except RJ11 only has 1, 2, 3, 4 prongs. RJ12 and the two outside ones are just not populated with the prongs, the slots here, right? Now this one here, it has more prongs. It's got 6 prongs instead of 4. So that's the difference between RJ11 and RJ12. Here is RJ22. It's the smaller jack that is used for the handset cord. And of course, here's a good old famous RJ45 that looks like this. The Ethernet, the computer jack or plug, which we already have done. Now, the Ethernet jack in the wall can accommodate this, but as I said before, if you use the RJ11 or RJ12, which is the same shape, they are also physically constructed to accommodate, so you can normally fit that and it works. So these two prongs are be connected to the two middle prongs of the RJ45 jack. Okay? And we got 2 minutes to go. Yeah, here's just an example of the 25 pair. See, white group, red group, black, yellow, violet, right? Blue, orange, green, brown, stain, and so on. On the BICS termination strip, this is a pinout for the North Star Meridian 616 telephone system, which can accommodate 6 phone lines from outside and distribute the phones, the signal to the phones, 16 phones. So first 16 pairs are phone extensions, and some of the phone systems are programmed depending on the software version that you get installed, because they have different software versions. Sometimes you get 2-digit extensions, sometimes you get 3-digit extensions, and with the bigger ones, sometimes you get 4-digit extensions. Right? So here's the pairs. And then there's nothing, and here is pair number 22. It doesn't work for all phone systems. It works for this particular phone system, particular model. Here's the extension as external paging audio. So this one is no problem. 1 minute to go. The external paging audio, so that can be connected straight to the amplifier, or it can be connected to the audio input of the paging interface. Now here, external paging contact closure. It's a relay that follows if the paging feature was enabled, that relay closes, giving just like a switch, automatic switch. What that does is that the paging amplifiers, the better ones, they have a relay contact input. If you have a amplifier connected to a bunch of speakers, and if you have the audio from the phone system plugged into the audio input of the amplifier, and if there's no page going on, you would just be hearing a bunch of hiss and noise through the speakers. Very annoying. So normally that thing is disabled. The input is disabled to the amplifier, so things are quiet. Unless you push a button or close a switch, which can be connected to the external paging contact closure. So when somebody makes a audio page, this output is activated, sending signal to the audio input of the amplifier. And this relay closes, which means it enables the input. So the input is enabled only when the page is being done. You hang up the phone, page is done, this is disabled, contact opens, boom, things are quiet. Auxiliary ringer contacts. You see this, the night ringer or the loud ringer? No problem. This one here has one of the outputs. that can be programmed to follow any of the extensions. If you need more, you have to use some of the extensions to plug in the ATA adapter, and you can solve the thing. But solve the problem of the auxiliary ring. But this one here has one, right? And this one here is music on hold, MOH. And just so you know, there are businesses established around the world to produce music on hold. They give you, well, if you purchase the music on hold service, they give you something like a modem, which is a kind of glorified modem because it has audio circuitry in it, and it has a bit of a storage, digital storage, to accommodate the digital file, which will be audio file. And if you have certain type of business, instead of music on hold, you can have the content being played that is associated with your business. Did you know that this month we have special on pillows or something like that, right? And it's a paid service. Very nice. I'll talk to you a little bit more because we're running out of time. And because yeah, 2 minutes overtime, you need to have a couple minutes to get ready for your next class or whatever you have to do. All right, cool. So I will see some of you during the labs and some of us during the in-person class. And if I don't see you, I wish you a wonderful, safe, and happy Slack week break. All right. Thank you very much, guys. Bye.